And we are live. Good morning, everyone. Hope you're having a great Friday. It is Friday, October 7th, 2022. And today we're going to be talking about Twitter. Is the Twitter drama finally over? We'll find out. And there's some interesting updates rolling out to Twitter that we'll also talk about. Of course, we got some Apple news, Apple Watch Ultra review, courtesy of Brian, and so much more, because this is the iMore show. And I am Luke Filipowicz, your host as always, and joined by our wonderful iMore contributor, Karen Freeman. How you doing today, Karen?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. It was my birthday yesterday. So I'm 32 now, and I woke up with like terrible back pain. So I guess that's aging for you. That, or I just slept funny, which is probably the more likely answer. And we are joined today by iMore writer Brian Wolf. How you doing, Brian?
Doing great. Nice and warm here in Pennsylvania in the beginning of October, so I'm not complaining.
I was gonna say it looks way nicer than it does outside my window right now. we had our like first. It didn't stay, but we had like our first snow this last like day overnight. But it didn't. It was very minimal and it didn't really do much. There's a bit of frost on my car this morning, but that's about it. So hoping that we can still get a little bit more heat out of our October, because it's been pretty nice so far. We had a good September. All right. So Elon Musk is buying Twitter. So they say. Well, I think I'll finally believe it when everything is all finally officially signed. But if you've been following this drama, Elon famously said he was going to buy it for about like $44 billion, somewhere around there. But he had some concerns specifically around, like bot or fake accounts. Then he pulled out his offer after some back and forth, and there was going to be a trial, I think even just next week or something like that, right? It was very close. The trial was going to be coming, but now Elon has said, no, okay, we'll do the deal like we originally said. Which if you kind of know anything about contract law or had looked into it or whatever, Twitter had a pretty strong case going into it, based on everything that happened. So I think most people were expecting, if they went to trial, that Twitter was probably going to win anyways. So take that for what you will. But yeah, he apparently has also tweeted that buying Twitter is an accelerant to creating X, the everything app. And then in typical Elon Musk fashion, just kind of left it at that. So, I mean, this has kind of always been my opinion. Am I a huge fan personally of Elon Musk? No, mainly just because he's a rich billionaire and I don't seem to have a lot in common with those these days. But whoever owns Twitter, as long as I can like tweet out the stuff I want to tweet out, I'm not like too concerned about it. We'll have to see what happens. If you followed this drama too, there was like text messages that were partly redacted that got released like last week that talked about some between Elon, some between Jack Dorsey, and then some between people we don't exactly know, kind of talking about everything. And there's been some concerns over like who or who not Elon would want back on the platform, things like that. We'll have to see how this all shakes out. How are you two feeling? Do either of you care if Elon owns this or not?
I really don't have strong feelings about it. I think it's amusing that it's such a huge news item.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think it's a good idea if they can separate the really bad content and keep that still off Twitter and sort of, how do I put this, get out of the political playground and take sides on politics. I think that if everybody can voice their opinion on the everyday events, I think that would be a better solution for everybody in the long term.
Yeah.
It's always easier said than done, though.
Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen? I think what I would like to see, and what the one thing that Elon has sort of said, and who knows if it's actually going to happen, but like he does seem to believe, and I mean, not even believe, I think there is evidence to show, but like, I think there is a lot of bot accounts or like alternate accounts and fake accounts or spam accounts on Twitter. I see them all the time. they're really disruptive to, I mean, not only people's personal lives who sometimes get attacked via personal attacks or whatever, but also like they interfere politically when like any political decision, like, and they're run by, foreign, some of them are run just by, idiots just wanting to have fun, I guess. But a lot of them are run by, foreign agents or opposing forces that may not be so great, trying to influence kind of our just general political discourse and stuff. So I think if Elon Musk is serious about tackling that issue and trying to find a way where more people on Twitter are like actual people that we can tell, I think that would be healthier for the app for sure. So we'll have to see how this goes. I kind of assumed, like I said, I kind of looked into the legal side of it before this was all happening, going to court, and it looked like Twitter had the much stronger case. So I kind of assumed that something would happen. But I did think it was actually going to go to trial, mainly just because Elon Musk likes being in the news. Part of me thinks he almost did the whole buying Twitter thing just to get his name in the news again. Not that he has to really try, to be honest, but I think he likes talking about himself, and he likes creating drama or not even drama, I guess, like hype or just wants to be part of the conversation, I think, as part of his brand and part of his brands as well. So yeah, but Twitter has also been making some changes recently. The biggest one is people are now able to edit, at least some people can, in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and United States. If you have Twitter Blue, which is a subscription, the edit button and being able to edit tweets is now being tested, and you can try it out. Brian, you were saying that you do have this, right? You have Twitter Blue?
Yeah, I can't really show it here. It's a pretty smooth process. You type something that you said something stupid, or the typos are there, and you hit publish, and from there you have, I believe, 30 minutes where you can actually edit that post. And what's nice or bad about it, depending on where you sit, even if you delete a comment or edit a comment, your followers are still going to be able to see what you wrote before. So if you say something really nasty about somebody and then you think better of it and put something nice, they're still going to know that you said something really stupid about somebody. So I would expect this is going to go live to everybody at some point. I think they'll try to make some money on it for the first few months and make it exclusive. But then after that, I think everybody will have that option.
Oh, you think that they'll take it out of Twitter Blue and they'll actually like put it into just like regular Twitter eventually?
I think a lot of it's right now a scaling issue. I think that that's going to add some bandwidth, as it were, to the platform.
Right.
So I think once they figure out, using their statistics, how often people are going to use this, I think it's going to be for everybody, especially if Musk buys Twitter.
Yeah, I haven't made the dive yet, but I'm like, I really want to. I make enough stupid typos that I just want to get rid of, whether I'm just like interacting with, people I know, friends or family or whatever. And we're just having like a little bit of a thread of what have you, jokes or whatnot. Sometimes my puns don't land because puns require proper spelling typically. And I really want a way to change that. So I think I'm going to jump in on this, at least to try it out. I think, the biggest, I think Twitter's done probably the smartest editing feature I think I've seen out of any social media platform, or messaging platform, I'm including Apple in that as well. Since, you can now edit iMessages and things like that. But Twitter giving you the entire log. If you click on that tweet where it says this is an edited tweet and you click on that, you're going to get the entire log of changes. So if people change things multiple times because they're whether it's because they're walking something back or just because they have multiple errors or whatever, you're going to be able to see every single change that they make. And you're going to be able to like still see the original tweet. If you're worried about that at all, I think this is probably the best implementation I've seen. in fact, in terms of like being able to hold people accountable to what they said. So it's not like you can just put a tweet out that's, uncouth or nasty or whatever, and all of a sudden you don't have any consequences to deal with. I've also kind of always been a proponent of, edit buttons exist, but so do people's so do screenshots, and things tend to get screenshotted pretty quickly on the internet if you say something, really bad. So I was never like overly worried about it, to be honest, but the fact that you can see every single change, and it even timestamps every change, I believe. I think it even shows you when it was changed. I can't remember for sure, but the point is you can see everything. So I think that's like the best way I've seen any social media platform do it. Karen, Karen, you're verified on Twitter. Brian, are you verified too? I feel like I'm not.
I am verified. Don't ask me when or how, but yes, I have the blue check.
One of these days I'll get it. I promise myself I'm going to do it. I'm trying. It's funny. I never cared about it until like a couple months ago. I decided to try because I was like, I have all the requirements that it asks for, but it just hasn't worked. So that's one thing I guess not. I guess not. But Karen, do you have any inclination to use this? Do you care?
If it was free, I would use it to correct my occasional typos, but I'm not the kind of person that's going to say something inflammatory and then change my mind about it anyway. So it would really just be typo fixing for me. And I'm not going to pay $5 a month for it, but if it does indeed later change to a free feature, I would certainly take advantage of it.
I have another point that I was just thinking of. If Musk is correct and he's basically going to let people that were kicked off before, they're going to be allowed to come back and stuff, this edit feature is perfect because, if somebody says something really bad, it's still going to be there and they can't hide it. So, if we say something stupid online, people respond pretty quickly, and I think that keeps people a little bit more on the up and up.
Yeah, there's definitely like, there is a social responsibility, I think, that maybe not everybody thinks about, but when you're posting something online, be it on Twitter, Facebook, anywhere really, it's never private. As soon as it's out there, it's out there. Somebody will have seen it, regardless of how quick you take it back.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Yeah, exactly. So I agree. I think like, I people who are worried about this stuff coming into more and more apps and more things, I definitely understand that, there can be an abuse if it's not, put in correctly, if there's not a way to tell that something's been edited, if there's not a way to kind of like keep that accountability for what somebody has put out there. I think that is a dangerous situation. And some apps handle it all differently, and I think Twitter's done a good job here. So I'm excited to try it. I think I'll make the plunge probably later today. I'll check it out and actually like get Twitter Blue, at least for a month, see how much I use it in a month. I'll probably like decide how much I use it. Am I editing tweets all the time? I have a feeling I probably will be, to be honest. And then I'll decide if I want to keep it or not. Cause yeah, it's like, because of conversions or whatever, it's like I think it's like $6.49 here in Canada. So it's not like a cheap subscription if you think about it that way for an app, because if it cost me about the same amount as Apple TV Plus does, and Apple TV Plus gives me a lot more. Not that Twitter Blue doesn't. There are other features than the edit feature, but like the edit feature is really the only one that I care about. So paying for one feature, we'll see how much I use it in a month. Maybe I'll come back and I'll let you all know if I've kept it or not. Moving on. Apple has confirmed that there was an adaptive transparency bug in older AirPods.
Well, it was a feature that we thought we were getting.
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah.
It was just a bug.
Yeah, which is crazy. This is probably like it's a bit of a gaffe, I gotta say, in terms of bugs to have a feature you think showing up on older iPods or AirPods. So if people didn't know, AirPods Pro 2, which were launched just a little while ago, they have this adaptive transparency feature, which means that
when you're in transparency mode, you can still hear the outside noises, but adaptive transparency means that if there's a really loud noise, like a siren or something like that, that's not going to come through as loudly as it actually is. So it's transparent. You're still in transparency mode, but it adapts to the noise level.
Yeah. Which is super cool and definitely an upgrade over just, a transparency mode that's static, as it was on the AirPods Pro. But people had spotted in developer betas that regular AirPods Pro seemingly had the feature, and seemingly it was added. And I think we even talked about it on the show last week, I believe, and said that was awesome that they were bringing it to original AirPods Pro. But it's Mark Gurman has reported that he's been told that this is a bug and isn't actually supposed to be there for regular AirPod or AirPods Pro version 1 users. So that's disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been a disappointment if we had never heard that it was going to be brought down to the previous models of AirPods Pro anyway. But here we are, taking back everything we said about how nice it was that they brought this new feature to older hardware.
Did anybody actually get it working on the old one?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't have a AirPods Pro. I just have the AirPods 3.
Yeah, so I don't know that it was really functional. It was just it was in the beta that it was going to happen, I guess. I don't know if anybody got it working. Do you have the original AirPods Pro, Brian?
I have them in my ear right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you try to get it working?
No, by the time I got around to attempt it, the beta changed and it was gone. You never know. Stage Manager wasn't supposed to come to a whole list of iPads, and I guess it is going to come to those iPads. So you never know. They could.
Yeah. Well, that's different because Apple made an official announcement about that.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So that's coming, at least.
But it is an odd situation because it's not uncommon for, especially in 0.1 releases or what have you, where like something gets added to the beta, people notice it. And that is a feature that's going to be coming. Like, for example, the battery percentage, when that happened in iOS 16, that was just something that came in the beta one day. And then we were like, oh, I guess Apple's bringing this back. And they never made an announcement about it or anything. It just happened. Right. So like,
that's why we didn't think to question it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little weird that a bug caused this. So unfortunately, if you have the regular AirPods Pro, you're not going to get the adaptive transparency feature. The good news is that doesn't really make your AirPods Pro any better or worse. They're the exact same as they were before. Would have been cool if they could, somehow make that through a firmware update or something, make that software kind of come down the lineup a little bit. Would be nice. But
if you are a parent of a say a child that is not quite old teenager, you can probably pack up the old AirPods Pro and give them as a holiday gift and use that time to buy yourself a brand new pair of the second generation, because the older ones still work very well.
And this is important for teenagers of all ages, or maybe for everybody. They look the same.
Yeah.
So if you're buying your child the original AirPods Pro, they're not going to be able to say, but Dad, they don't look like what little Susie has. They'll look the same. Nobody will know.
Yeah. So little unfortunate that a bug kind of caused everybody to sort of be like, oh, and praise Apple for, bringing down features, because it's always nice when Apple brings newer features to older hardware. We always appreciate that. Makes the life of the device a little longer, and definitely helps people out without having to dish out money. But unfortunately, that's just not one of the cases here. So a bit of a weird bug, but it was kind of funny to think like, oh, it's weird how so many other features we've talked about before have come through on a beta, and we've just been like, oh yeah, I guess this is happening. Also, another good important reminder that beta software can always change, regardless whether it's a bug or not. Things can be taken back. Apple can look at Stage Manager. It's when it launches, when iPadOS launches, it's not going to be quite the same and everything that we expected kind of at the beginning. So Lots of things can always happen during the beta period. Some news in music. I have to be able to enunciate that. Artists are going to have many more ways to personalize their profile on Apple Music, which I think, as somebody who at one point was part of a band that did actually have a little bit of music on Apple Music a long time ago. It's gone now, so you can't even watch it or listen to it. So I'm not even going to talk about it. But this is a good. I think a decent change. It's nice to see that, Apple Music is at least putting a little bit of effort into this. So what's cool about this is that like artists can have they have a new profile section that kind of lets them take a little more control. They can connect with their fans a little better. They have it's just like much more robust than if you go to a current artist page right now. Don't know when exactly this is rolling out or when people are when we'll start seeing bands really kind of take hold of this. But it's at least a bit of a update to, something that has been going on forever. It's now reached over 1 million songs, which is something that, or 100 million, not a million, Jesus, 100 million songs. And yeah, I'm kind of excited for this just because when I discover a new band or whether it's on an Apple Music playlist or somebody recommends something for me, I usually go to like their profile page and try and see when they last released an album, things like that. But it doesn't really give me a ton of information about like who the band is or anything. So I'm hoping that bands kind of use this and use it in a bit of to personalize their page a little more, just so that I like knowing about the artists that I like to listen to.
I think this is win-win-win because it's great for the artists because they get to actually sort of raise awareness about themselves right there on Apple Music. It's so much more robust, it sounds like. And it's great for listeners because particularly if they're discovering a new band, they get to see, they get to learn a lot more about the band without having to go hunt for it. And there's also stuff like lyrics. I don't know, when I was, particularly when I was a teenager, I wanted to know every single lyric of every single song. And, back in the day, it used to come with the album and you would have like the printed lyrics with the album. Obviously those days are long gone, but it's nice to have the lyrics right there in Apple Music. I know there are other ways to find lyrics. What?
Luke didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm sure yes, he did.
Yeah.
Surely you knew that lyrics used to come with the album sometimes, not always, but
yeah. I mean, I have plenty of CDs. You take out the little, the little thing in the plastic and
okay, sure, CDs.
Yeah. I mean, I have records. They're be right behind me. I have records.
Okay, yeah, you do. I see. And it's also smart for Apple because it keeps people in the Apple Music app longer because it otherwise people would have to go Google the information, right? So they'd have to leave the Apple Music app and they might still be listening to music, but they're off on Google or whatever. Yeah. So it just keeps people in Apple Music longer, and the longer they're in Apple Music, the more they're using Apple Music. And so I think this is a great change all around. I don't see any downside whatsoever.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I don't want to change, and I don't know exactly how this will affect things, but I don't think it will too much. But, one thing I do kind of appreciate that Apple Music does do is that when you look up an album from a band or whatever, they'll usually have a description of that album. And sometimes it goes into some cool details, right? Like it does sort of talk a bit about the music history of the band. And it talks about kind of producer amalgamations or partnerships and things like that, which I think can be interesting as a music fan. So I hope that they don't lose that, or at the very least, I hope that bands put in the effort to kind of make that their own, makes it a little more interesting, a little less informative, a little more personal. But I just hope that doesn't go away, but I don't think it will, because it sounds like this is more for the artist page itself, which right now is mainly just oh, here's the artist, here's a brief description that Apple kind of wrote up for them, and then their latest albums and stuff, which is good if you're just trying to find their music. But if you're trying to learn anything about them, it's a little bit dull. So hopefully we'll start seeing more bands use this, because I think it'll be good. I agree with you, Karen. I think it's a win for sure. Moving on. Next gen iPad. We've heard lots about how the regular base iPad is going to be moving into this kind of hybrid design where it's still going to have a
Home button.
what we're trying to say. Thank you. A home button with Touch ID, but it's going to kind of have more of a rounded edges, a bit of a bigger screen. We're thinking, or at least a
They
bit
better
more
get
of a
moving.
full screen. Yeah, who knows? we were expecting this in October, but now we have no idea what Mac's doing or what Apple's doing in October. Are they launching? Are they doing an event? Are they launching them all via pre-release? Who knows? But according to Macotera, ESR, a popular accessory maker, recently launched some cases for a new iPad on the Japanese Amazon store. And the cases kind of suggest that there's going to be a significant design change coming. We've seen this stuff before where a manufacturer who usually has the ability to kind of get certain specs beforehand so that they can make their cases, their accessories for the new products so that they're available when the new products launch. And sometimes stuff either leaks or sometimes they put it out a little early, but they don't really specifically say what it's for necessarily. So this is a bit of a weird one, but it kind of also makes sense. And I think like it kind of just adds credence to the rumor that the 10th generation iPad is going to be a bit of a departure from what we've seen in the past. Karen, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to say ESR may not be a household name that everybody knows, but I actually have reviewed quite a number of ESR cases, and I have gotten a number of them before products have come out, sometimes even before products are officially announced, and the cases always fit. They always end up fitting. So, you know, whatever line ESR has on the dimensions and the specs of products that are forthcoming, they usually tend to be pretty good. So if that means
I will say, Karen, I don't know what you found out, but I tend to get a lot of emails from other case designers a few weeks before something happens, even if the product wasn't announced yet. And I have gotten very little about the new iPad. So I'm not sure if they're just really following the rules this time or.
Yeah, I haven't gotten any emails. You're right, Brian. Like you, I get all these emails as well, but I have not gotten one single email about the new iPad. As I'm trying to think, I don't think I've gotten any from any case makers.
I mean, the regular iPad is I think I'm correct in saying it's the most popular iPad during the first quarter of Apple's fiscal year because of the holidays. So I would assume that if they're going to release a new one, it's going to be announced in the next week or two.
Yeah. And we're still kind of waiting to see. Maybe it'll be an event. It seems like more, you know, people like Mark Gurman and you know, Ming-Chi Kuo are kind of saying it's not going to be an event. It's just kind of going to be press releases for some new Macs, some new iPads, which I would find interesting for, you know, something like this, which even though the 10th generation iPad, granted it's a design change, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a ton is changing with it. I'm just surprised that they wouldn't take the opportunity to kind of like tout that on stage, because it is kind of like a bit of a new direction for the iPad. And I think like people who aren't as into following Apple's every little move like we are, might go to the store to go update their iPad that they bought, you know, a few years ago and want just the same thing, but newer. And all of a sudden be like, oh, I don't see the iPad that I normally have. You know what I mean? And obviously, you know, store clerks are going to be able to, you know, Apple store employees or Best Buy or wherever you go is going to be able to like tell you what's up. But I think like there is a bit of a disconnect with people who don't follow this stuff, who go into the shop and say, I want this exactly this, just newer. That's all I want. And I'm kind of interested that if Apple would just do this via a press release.
Yeah, I think that would be sufficient, because I don't think that the regular iPad is the iPad that everybody rushes out to buy on release day. The people who are rushing out to buy new iPads on release day tend to be more like pro users, maybe the Air, maybe even the Mini. But the regular iPad is the one that like you said, Luke, people walk into with their 10-year-old, I used to work at the Apple store, 10-year-old iPad and say, yeah, I just need the new one of this. And will my old case still fit?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the one that people buy just whenever they need a new iPad. It's not the one that they buy on release day. So I think having, and if Apple does a whole event around the new iPad, that's fine, but it seems unlikely that that would be the star of a whole event. I would think a press release would be plenty for that.
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't expect it to be the star. I just find it interesting that they wouldn't take the opportunity to show it off a little bit, since it is kind of like, I guess, the biggest change to that lineup since its inception, really.
They're really, when we're talking about changing the bezels, right, and the edges,
yeah.
I don't think that's that huge of a change. I think if and when they get rid of the home button, that will be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Particularly for people that are coming in with their 10-year-old iPads wanting the new version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But by then the iPhones will have had swiping for so long that, maybe people will be able to manage it.
Yeah. Well, plus they also seem to be putting Touch ID on, like, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, the iPad Air has Touch ID, the iPad Mini has Touch ID, and the power button.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they do get rid of the home button at some point on the base iPad.
Yeah,
I would expect them to keep the Touch ID around.
Yeah. So the picture from ESR actually shows no home button, specifically no home button, which is interesting. We haven't heard rumors to that effect, have we?
Not as far as I know. No. Yeah, the picture
that doesn't necessarily mean anything, because it's just a picture. But
yeah, and also, yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean anything because it is just a picture. It literally might just be a render they created, or it might even just be a render of a slightly different iPad that they just kind of threw in there.
Yeah, it could be anything, but it does definitely show the case with more of like the squared off edges, and with that kind of stuff, they're usually pretty accurate. So
yeah, so yeah, we'll have to see. I'm excited to. I think I've said this before. I'm just like curious at what the design change, if it's going to change the price at all away from that $399 price. Because one of the reasons why Apple has been able, or they'll say has been able to sort of keep that price point for so long, is because they are using, essentially, they don't have to remanufacture or kind of do any of that for the casing, right? And that's a big part of the design of the device. If you're just kind of sticking new internals in there, but everything else is essentially the same, you don't have as much to do. But if they're sticking new internals in as well as updating the design, that is going to mean a slightly different case or what have you. So I'm interested to see if that's going to make the price go up a little bit. I doubt it would be much. I feel like at most it would maybe be like $30. Like maybe it would go to $429 instead of $399, which is not $30 isn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things, I guess, for a lot of people. But for some people, that's $30 can be kind of make or break, right? And I do feel like one of the reasons why the iPad is so popular, the base iPad, is it's really kind of the best tablet around that price point. So it'll be interesting to see if they're going to kind of try and sort of still keep it down low where it is. And also, if you bring it up, then you risk kind of bumping more into the other lineup. Other models.
Let's hope they keep it under. They keep it under that magic 400.
Yeah.
mark.
Yeah. I really hope so. So we'll have to see what happens. I'm still curious about if we're actually going to get an Apple event or not. But we'll have to see. I'm assuming whether it's an event or whether it's press releases, we're probably going to start hearing something next week. That's just my guess. I have nothing to go on other than I feel like
what's really funny? These events are still being the last I checked, they're still being recorded. I understand that in some cases they're inviting members of the press to see at least part of it. But in the scheme of things, I don't know what the difference is between let's have even a 45-minute taped presentation that they put a lot of money into but looks awesome versus let's just send out a press release on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I just think it's kind of kind of boggles my mind if they go in that direction and not give us any sort of video presentation. I just think it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
Especially
especially
they have to balance whether it's worth the money or not, because it costs them a lot to do that.
yeah, and especially
absolutely.
yeah, and especially since like I know that we're maybe not expecting huge upgrades except for like maybe processor upgrades, but it's interesting to hear that they might just they might be considering doing like a press release for something like the MacBook Pro, which is like arguably like probably their flagship like Mac, right? Like that's the Mac that everyone kind of like cares about. I mean, it's not the one that everyone gets, but it's kind of like the laptop that sort of sets the pace for Apple in a lot of ways. And even if it is, and some years they've done that, it's mostly a processor upgrade and there's nothing really different. And I kind of expect that this would be that year for sure. But it's interesting to me that they would take such a big product that's I feel like top of mind for so many people.
Yeah, but if they have nothing to say, but it's way faster, how are they going to make an hour?
But I mean, they do that with the. I mean, not that they don't.
They did that with the phone. They
I
did
was
that
gonna
with
say.
the iPhone 14.
Oh, they have to do. They have to do presentations with the new iPhones every year. It's just it's the product that put Apple on the map.
Yeah, and it is their most popular product for sure. But I would argue that probably the most recognizable or the Mac that most people are interested in is probably the MacBook Pro. So,
but that's a separate discussion, Luke, though, because the iPad Pro is going to probably get the M2 processor. Yeah, obviously it's going to work with everything that's in the new iPad OS. What is it? 15, right? We're still on 15 or 16? 16. And it starts at $800. You would hope that they would at least have a little bit of a video presentation on it, because it's a lot of money for somebody to spend.
Yeah,
because it should be better than the one they have out now.
Yeah, it's a little interesting. I'm curious. I'm thinking sometime next week we'll hear something, whether that's just a release of a product or at least a press release that tells us when it's coming, or we'll get those invites will get sent out. So I'm interested to see. It'll be a wild one. If it's just press releases, I'm kind of like part of me from a work standpoint, from like a professional standpoint, I kind of want it to be press releases because that's a little less easier. That's a little less work for us. But from a consumer standpoint, I'm definitely like, that's boring. Like give me a nice slick video that shows me some stuff.
We should know by the next show in one way or another.
Yeah, I hope so. Speaking of the Pro, let's move over to the Apple Watch Ultra. Interestingly enough, Brian, you have the Apple Watch Ultra. It's on right now. I can see it. We'll talk about your review and your thoughts on it in just a second. But one thing, I don't know if you'll mention this or not specifically, but you may know that the Apple Watch Ultra has a better GPS in it than other Apple Watches. How much better is it? Well, somebody mowed their lawn using GPS tracking on the Apple Watch Ultra, and then sort of posted the results. And you can see a pretty drastic difference between their Series 4 and their Ultra. Go look at the pictures. It's on our website. It's also in a Reddit thread as well. So if you happen to look at the Apple Watch subreddit, you might have already seen it there. But yeah, the Series 4, like you can see the path kind of like juts out and does like these crazy loops that I'm assuming somebody wouldn't do while they're mowing their lawn.
Yeah, he said he didn't. There's like an extra 1.4 miles on the Apple Watch Series 4 that he did not do.
Yeah.
With the Ultra, you can actually see the lines, those nice lines in people's lawns right after they mow them. You can see the lines on the Apple Watch Ultra GPS. It's very cool.
Yeah, and as Karen said, it's like over a mile difference in how long that the Series 4 thought he walked to how long the Ultra did. So it's a huge difference, and I think like the dual precision GPS in the Apple Watch Ultra is a much needed feature for the people that it's targeting. If you're going on a hike, or especially if you're going in the wilderness or what have you, but even just regular hikes, you want your GPS to be more accurate. And I think like I didn't realize how inaccurate our GPSs were
it certainly isn't a scientific test. It's just a guy with a
lawnmower
Apple Watch, but it's really dramatic. It's very interesting to look at.
Yeah.
So.
But Brian, you've been wearing it. You reviewed it for us. Tell us all about it. What are your things you like? What are the things you don't? What's your impression so far?
I went into this as a non-mountain climber, non-diver. I swim. I think I'm a pretty good swimmer. And I realized it, and I said it in the review, it really, even for, I said it's the best watch this year for most people, not just the endurance runners and all that. And I say that because a lot of that has to do with the fact that the 8 is really not much of a step up. But in this limited time, I would say that the biggest 2 reasons to get this watch, and I'm just gonna discount the extra features for the endurance people, because we've talked about that a lot. Number 1 is battery life. There is such an incredible. It's so much better that I don't have to put it on the charger every day. Although I will say it is not great. I mean, I want 2 days is fine, but I really want 10 days, and I think that's how most people feel. But the best thing is the actual screen is so much better than anything I've ever seen for an Apple Watch. And you really, if you're thinking, if money isn't an object and you're really deciding whether to get an 8 or an Ultra, number 1, there's no comparison as far as the screen, the look, and especially like outside, but also, and some people would argue, and I know Karen would argue against this, but I think a lot of people would find out that it's not that much bigger than you maybe think it is. I'm not saying somebody with really dainty arms should get one, but I bet you there's a lot of people that their immediate reaction would be, oh, it's too big for me. And I think that you would be very surprised. And it's so light because of the titanium. And I think they priced it very strangely in many respects. If you're the type of person that, and I know that people are out there, there's a lot of people that go out and every year, whenever they buy an Apple Watch, they get a stainless steel one. And they start at, $699, something like that in the US. It's a no-brainer in my opinion. You want to go with the Ultra if you're that type of person, because in many cases, the stainless steel ones are more expensive, depending on what band you get. So I think I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I had to give some room because there's going to be a new one in a year or 2 that will make this one look like the first generation iPad. But I think it's great. It's probably my favorite new product of the year, and that says a lot because I am really a lot more impressed with the dynamic island on the iPhone 14 Pro than I probably should be. But definitely the watch is the product of the year in my book.
Well, if I had bigger wrists, I would definitely be buying an Ultra next, but I can't do it. It's too big.
I think one thing that, and it was pointed out, and you make a good case, Brian, saying that, if you're going for the stainless steel watch, anyways, a Series 8, you're going to be getting pretty close or even over the price of an Apple Watch Ultra, and you're not getting, as many features and things. I think the one thing that the Ultra is sort of, I wouldn't say missing, because it's intentional what they did with it, obviously, but it doesn't fade away. It's not a stealthy watch, and it's not meant to be, right? But I feel like it's hard to dress up, whereas
it's
if
got
you have
that big safety orange,
the
button, it's not my style. I don't think I could pull it off. Even if it did come in a smaller size, it wouldn't be for me. But if those 2 things weren't an issue, I think you would have sold me, right? Because it does sound like an amazing investment.
I think the little button on the side, the action button, I think that's sort of a preview where all the Apple Watches will eventually go. I think they'll, get rid of the orange for the regular watch and just put the extra button on the side. So I think it's like a coming soon attraction thing as far as that goes. But I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with what you guys are saying. I mean, it's been designed to be very obvious that you have that watch, and as a first version, that's what a lot of people like. They like that people, hey, you have the Ultra. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. I'm not saying that, but I can see that is part of the appeal too.
Yeah, for me, the Apple Watch is jewelry, and I want it to look like jewelry, not an action watch. And that definitely looks like an action watch.
Yeah, and I mean that's intentional. I don't think that
it's a nice looking action watch. I'm not into that personally.
Yeah, but
Can we talk about the bands then, Luke?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah, the bands are super cool.
Yeah,
the bands are really cool, but I did knock them for the $99.
yeah.
I would love to know what their profit margin is on those. And I would definitely, I'm going to check out some of the knockoffs on Amazon, because if you go in there right now, like, they look identical. And of course the knockoffs come in 50 different colors.
Right. For like less than a tenth of the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're nice, and you can tell they put a lot of thought and energy into them. So yeah, I think they're great, but $99, it gets expensive if you want one of each of them.
Yeah, they are unique, and they are cool looking, although none of them are anything I would ever wear. They're just not my style. They're a very particular style, and they're just fantastic for other people, not me.
A lot more comfortable than most people might think.
What band do you have on right now? That yellow one, is that the Ocean?
That's the Ocean one, and I only bought it because when you go and order an Apple Watch Ultra, there is a big change on when you can get one, depending on what band you select. And honestly, I think I only selected it because it was the one I could get quicker, because I did not actually order it on launch day. I think I took 2 days. I like it. Do I want the yellow? No, but I have noticed that the regular leather bands, the leather bands they sell now, not the previous generation, actually look very nice on these. And I should have brought one to show, but I think of all the existing watch bands, that's the one that actually kind of looks really nice with the Ultra.
Yeah, and that's the cool thing too, is that it's funny. I wonder how much bigger they could go with the case. I don't know if they would, but like, how much bigger could they go with the case and still fit old watch bands? Because they made sure that, if you have any 45 millimeter or 45 millimeter compatible watch bands, will fit the 49 millimeter Apple Watch Ultra, which I think is just a smart move. People don't want it. A lot of people have invested a lot of time, money, and have quite a bit of a band collection, especially people who like to wear their Apple Watch everywhere they possibly can. So
yes, as one of those people, I very much appreciate that Apple has kept the watch bands the same size throughout the entirety of the Apple Watch's history.
And that's really, really a surprise if you look at some other products of theirs that, like, I'm dating myself, but I always go back to the iPad 3 that was on the market for, I think, 6 or 7 months. And there was a big style change. So not only did you have to buy a new iPad 6 months later if you wanted the latest and greatest, but all the cases were dead. I mean, you had to buy new cases. So
yeah, it's nice when you get a new product and you don't have to necessarily buy all new accessories, which isn't always the case. I mean, eventually design changes are going to make a difference, but as much as Apple can kind of carry that stuff over, and it might happen. It's likely seeming like it's going to happen with the iPad 10th generation, right? It's likely if you have a case for the 7, 8, 9, or 6 that has fit all of those generations, it likely won't fit the iPad 10th generation. So it's nice that the Apple Watch has been around this long and still kind of kept it. There's always been a way, even when they've upped the case size, there's always been a way to sort of make them work, or even change the case dimensions a little bit. So that's a good call. I'm interested to hear, Brian, hear back from you when you try maybe some of those Amazon or cheaper brand.
Yeah, I'm going to get some in the
bands.
next week or two, and then I'll report on them.
Yeah, because interestingly enough, it's like the Ocean one seems to me, if it, like, at least the way that Apple sold it, it kind of has like the most technology behind it, or like the most, like thought into it about like what it's supposed to do. But like the Alpine and the Trail, like they look nice, don't get me wrong, but like I feel like those are pretty easy to probably get knocked off, and they obviously will. But I'm interested if the knockoff Ocean bands will just like, they'll probably might just look like them, but not actually feel or really work like them. But I'm interested. You never know. There's always manufacturers out there who really do try and find ways to do what Apple does, but for a slightly cheaper and maybe just a slightly worse effect, but still fairly good for most people. There's a sweet spot there for a lot of accessories that I think is good, because as we know, Apple accessories, while they are nice, they always work well, they're always good quality, they are very expensive. So
yeah. I mean, I've owned quite a few sport band knockoffs, and there is a wide range of quality, and there is really nothing like the Apple fluoroelastomer band. They're none of them match that quality. There are some that are fine. They're perfectly fine. They look fine. But there's just a little something missing. It's not quite there.
Yeah. But some people only need good enough. They don't need.
And you know what? And I wear them. I wear the knockoffs. Totally. That whether they cost $5 or $10. If I like them, I like them, and I wear them. I don't care.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna top off the show here talking about a little some of our favorite apps, actually. So we were thinking about, people are getting new devices, whether you've already gotten an iPhone, or you're getting a new iPhone 14, or Christmas and the shopping season, Black Friday is all coming up. Maybe you'll get a new iPad, new iPhone. So we were thinking, like, what are the top apps that you like have to install immediately, or you want to make sure transfer over properly from your previous iPhone when you get a new iPhone? And so we thought we would talk about some of our favorites, and we could do one paid, because some paid apps are definitely worth the money, and we'll talk about why, and also do one free. So let's start off with our guest, Brian. Let's throw you under the bus here, and you can talk about what's your paid app. We'll start with the paid app. What's your like paid app that you always want on your iPhone right away?
Okay, I think the two I'm going to select are I think they're actually free to download, but I always encourage buying the extras. The first is RoboKiller, which has been around a while. It will literally get rid of the spam calls that you may get on your phone. And you can actually play some games with the people that call by having a fake voice come on and act like they can't hear you, or you're in the room, or you start yelling at them, etc., etc. So that's right on my list. And another one is the Llama water tracker. I think it's called Water Llama. That's the official. Yes.
Water Llama. I looked it up.
Water Llama. And that allows you to keep track of all your liquid intakes each day, and it allows you to be specific about it. Like if you're drinking sparkling water, regular water, diet soda, coffee, black tea, green tea, stuff like that. And it takes into account what you're drinking, and it lets you know how much that has hit your goal, because everybody has a goal based on your weight and your activity. So if you have, for example, a glass of wine, that's certainly not going to add as much to your daily intake of water as a regular glass of water. So definitely check out that one. That one is a freemium app where you can then add to it if you really like it.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, the exact name is Water Tracker Water Llama. And the Water Llama is one word.
Yeah. So
really great. I was going to say it's really great on the iPad or on the Apple Watch too.
So it's
yeah,
free
I
to
was gonna ask about
download. What do you get with the in-app purchases, Brian?
When you make an in-app purchase, you get different designs. Like it all caters to. It shows your liquid intake according to an animal, like a polar bear or a dog, like a cartoon. So you get, I think, 26 of those with the purchase, and also it adds more drinks to the library.
Okay. And how about with the robocall? That's also free to download. So what do you get with the premium that you pay
I
for?
think it gives you just more tools on what it would do with the callers that call in.
Okay. Cool.
that one's really cool because I didn't even really think about checking for apps for that, for like scam calls and stuff. So I'm definitely probably going to check that one out. The water
Yeah,
llama
I just
one,
downloaded it on Brian's recommendation. It sounds really cool.
the water llama one, I feel like it'll just make me feel bad about how much coffee I drank today. So I'm probably I'll leave that one aside for now. All right, Karen, how about you? Your free app and your paid app. Why do you like them? What do they give you?
So my free app is Gas Buddy. And with gas prices high and just getting higher, it helps you find the cheapest gas in your area. And you can filter it by the type of gas that you use, whether unleaded, premium, what diesel, whatever. And you can sort your results by price or distance, or price and distance. And it's got all these other features. Everything is free. It's ad supported. And you can, the gas prices are crowdsourced. So if you're at a gas station and you notice something's wrong, you can put in the correct price. So it's a really cool app everybody should have on their phone. And the paid app that I wanted to mention, which I've talked about many times before, is Fantastical. I usually use Apple stock apps for almost everything, but the one Apple app I cannot stomach is the calendar app. And Fantastical there's nothing super groundbreaking about it. It's just a really good calendar app. It has just lots of different views for how you can view your calendar, and it has a really nice widget for the home screen that has the date in like very large in a very large font, and then it has the upcoming events, and it even has the weather, which I like, just a little high and low and the weather conditions all in this one widget. So, and there's also a premium subscription that you can purchase, which I haven't. I don't even have the premium. I just have like the base price, whatever it was when I purchased it so many years ago. I don't even remember. And it has all the features that I need. So I love that one. Worth the money. Luke, How about you?
Yeah. I'll start with my paid. So my paid is 1Password. Which is a subscription, and I try not to suggest those necessarily, but like 1Password has just changed my life since I finally got around to installing it. And I'm not necessarily saying you have to go with 1Password. That's just the one I have most experience with. But I would just say like a reliable password manager is really, really crucial, I think, for everybody. It's a little bit better than I like to have it on top of iCloud Keychain, which is good, especially if you're using, Apple products and, on my Mac and all sorts of things. But like this allows me to store passwords that, for various other things that aren't really connected to my iCloud account or that I don't use on my Apple products, things like my PlayStation accounts, my Steam accounts, my, credit card information and things like that. You can lock up in there too. You can write secure notes to yourself, things like that. So if there are things important details that you want kind of like kept away in a place that is kind of password locked down, and just not have to worry about ever kind of forgetting a password again. It also lets you set strong passwords, and you can like really customize with that password. Like if you really want it to be only alphanumeric, or if you want special characters, or if you want it to, how long you want it to be, if you want like something shorter, something longer. It's really easy to just like open up, copy, paste, if you're doing it that way, or, just open it up and look at the password if you want to type it in, if you're in like something that you can't paste to. I didn't use a password manager for a long time, and the amount of times I had to like go through like resetting my password on accounts on all the time, just because like I'm a forgetful person and I just don't have it. And I just like refuse to do one because I didn't want to pay for one. I didn't really want to use one, but then I used 1Password and it was just, it's really, really incredible. So I would say just like any of the top ones are pretty good, like 1Password, LastPass, M-Secure, things like that. They're all probably going to work for you. Choose the one that you think you like the best. I really like 1Password. The subscription model kind of sucks. They went to that a little while ago. I think it was about a year or two ago now. It's not that the subscription isn't worth it. It's just that subscriptions are tiring. But there are some other options out there that are just like, a one-time fee. So if you want to look into those, but a password manager, I think, is like absolutely crucial. And the good thing about 1Password too is it does have apps pretty much for everywhere too. Like you can have it on your phone, and then you can have it on your computer or what have you, your iPad, things like that. So it's like you always can kind of have it on you, which is good.
Yeah, definitely worth it. You need passwords, and password is not a good password, people.
Yeah. You want strong passwords. And also, I guess the other benefit is if for some reason something catastrophic happened to your iCloud account where like you either couldn't access it anymore or like the keychain somehow screws up or something, it's nice that this is also a backup if you keep all your passwords in a separate app that isn't kind of connected to that. Then you have a backup, which like backups to your backups are always good ideas, especially when you're protecting important information. So get a password manager. And my free app, I'll just quickly mention it, is I like to edit a lot of photos, and I think a lot of people do too. And I like using Snapseed to do it, which is actually a Google product. But one of the reasons why I really love it is it's like a really fast editor. Because like you can open up an image, and then all of the options are like slidable. So you can slide up or slide down to like, if you want to, it's like, if you want to do basic image editing, it's like you put it in there. It's like brightness is one thing. You swipe left or right, change the brightness, swipe up. Now you're onto contrast, swipe left or right, change the contrast. You kind of like go through like this kind of standard steps. And for someone who's a big proponent of like, you can always kind of make your pictures look better through editing, and you don't really have to be like some professional photographer or professional editor to do it. Even just like adjusting the photo a little bit to what you think looks a little better usually turns out to be a bit of a better result than just something taken straight from a phone or straight from a camera. No professional photographer would ever put out a picture of theirs that isn't heavily edited in some way. But for light, quick editing on the go, I think Snapseed is just a little more intuitive than even Apple's own editing software that's included in the camera and the Photos app. And also it also has like a bunch of filters if you're interested in those as well. There's like a ton of other options, and it's free, which is nice. And it's made by Google, so it's like, it's like well taken care of. It's like a well taken care of app that gets updated quite frequently.
Nice.
So you don't have to worry about it like not working in the future or anything like that. So I'd say a good photo editor will go a long way to making your pictures look a little better. Even if you just want to put like 30 seconds into switching a few sliders around, you can make your pictures look better. So I would say Snapseed. And that's our show. Thanks for sticking around. Anybody who's listening live, we really appreciate you. Thank you so much. We do stream the show on YouTube, on our iMore YouTube channel every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So come check us out. Come say hi. Come join the chat. It's always fun. If you're listening to this on your podcast or your podcatcher of choice, which now includes Spotify, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for downloading us, listening to us and everything. As always, we want to thank our audio editor, Jim Metzendorf, for making us sound so good. And until next time, we will say adieu. Goodbye.
Bye.